gonna do it your way.
Want to drive? CarMax.
And we're out.
Back in 60.
Hey, what are you eating?
Chimichurri filet mignon. It's a Factor meal.
Oh, nice. Wait, they let you eat like that in the pros?
Oh, they insist on it. A pro's work starts on the plate.
Oh, man, that does look good. Let me have a taste.
Get your own.
All right. Where do I find this? Is it factormeals.com?
Yep, and they've got a deal going on.
Oh, love a deal. I am so in.
Smart move. Pro move.
All right. Factor. Eat like a pro.
Thanks for showing up, Dub Nation. Nothing beats catching your Warriors live, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back. As the official ticket marketplace of the Warriors and the NBA, even if you're headed to the game last minute, Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can experience all the sights, sounds, and styles in person. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Warriors tickets today at Ticketmaster. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com/Warriors. See you courtside again soon, Dub Nation.
What do you think makes the perfect snack?
It's gotta be when I'm really craving it and it's convenient.
Could you be more specific?
When it's cravenient.
Okay.
Like a freshly baked cookie made with real butter, available right down the street at AM/PM, or a savory breakfast sandwich I can grab in just a second at AM/PM.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Well, yeah, we're talking about what I crave.
Which is anything from AM/PM.
What more could you want?
Stop by AM/PM where the snacks and drinks are perfectly craveable and convenient. That's Cravenience. AM/PM, too much good stuff.
This is Draymond Green. Now back to the voice of the Warriors, Tim Roy, live from the DoorDash broadcast booth.
Raptors were led by Emmanuel Quickly, a career-high tying 40 points for Quickly and 10 assists. Scotty Barnes, 26 and 11, 18 turnovers for the Warriors, and they lost the rebounding battle by 1. Warriors hit the road for the first time since losing to the Clippers in L.A. on January 5th. They are in Dallas on Thursday, 4 o'clock, with the airtime. Good night from Chase Center. Raptors 145, Warriors 127.
Kick off the new year with an exhilarating journey. Grab the keys to a new Toyota truck and turn every day into an adventure. Get low 1.99% APR plus $1,000 finance cash on the 2025 Tacoma. Or get low 2.99% APR plus $1,000 finance cash on the 2026 Tundra. Make this year an unforgettable one in a reliable Toyota truck. Toyota, let's go places. Offers available through TFS to buyers with premium rated credit and cannot be combined with other offers. Finance cash must be applied to transaction ends 2/2/26.
No matter what you're eating during today's Warriors game, sharing a jar of Mazzetta makes it better. Just pop open that red cap to give your favorite snacks something extra, like crunchy jalapenos on nachos or zesty peppercini on sandwiches and sliders. It's just better. Mazzetta is a family-owned Bay Area company providing peppers, olives, pickled vegetables, and sauces since 1935. At Mazzetta, we say that when you share your food, you share a part of who you are. So grab your family and friends and share some unforgettable flavors with Mazzetta.
RingCentral's AI receptionist uses voice AI to answer on the first ring, so you'll never miss a call again. In just a few minutes, you can personalize your own AI receptionist to answer questions, route calls, schedule appointments, and even send texts in multiple languages. Plus, it's easy to scale. Create unlimited AI receptionists across any phone system. It's all powered by one reliable platform for effortless AI communications. See for yourself at ringcentral.com. RingCentral, voice of your business.
The chase starts here. To make moments you'll never forget.
Chase Center is rocking.
Historic ones.
For 4,000 for Stephen Curry.
Joyful ones.
My joy back, as some would say.
Winning ones. The moment needs you. To manifest it, to chase it, and put the opponent to sleep.
All the way down the floor.
Chase the moment. Buy tickets at Warriors.com.
What's up, Dub Nation? Do you want to get cash back on Warriors gear? All you have to do is sign up at Rakuten.com/Warriors, where you can earn 10% cash back in store and online at Warriors Shop. Once you're a member, shop your favorite stores like Fanatics and Ticketmaster and watch the cash back add up in your account. Rakuten is the most rewarding way for you to shop and maximize your savings. Join Rakuten for free today at Rakuten.com/Warriors or download the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN.
All members of Dub Nation know 2 essential truths. 1, the Warriors have the best point guard in the history of the game. And 2, the very best planes in the sky are United. New planes are joining the United fleet every week, decked out with Bluetooth connectivity, screens, and power at every seat. and bigger overhead bins to fit everyone's carry-on, or giant foam fingers. Download the United app and book your next trip today. United Airlines, proud to be the official airline of the Golden State Warriors.
Thanks for showing up, Dub Nation. Nothing beats catching your Warriors live, and nobody knows that better than you. So next time you want to hit up a game, Ticketmaster's got your back. As the official ticket marketplace of the Warriors and the NBA, even if you're headed to the game last minute, Ticketmaster gets you to the game so you can experience all the sights, sounds, and styles in person. Keep putting that jersey collection to use and get Warriors tickets today at Ticketmaster. Get tickets at Ticketmaster.com/Warriors. See you courtside again soon, Dub Nation.
To Curry, pump fake, fly by, three ball, with the buzzer sounding!
You've been listening to Golden State Warriors basketball on the Warriors Radio Network. Presented by United Airlines. For tickets, visit Warriors.com or call 888-GSW-HOOP.
Don't you wish you were here?
This Odyssey Sports broadcast was presented by ZipRecruiter. Looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Seconds to go. Toronto will bring this up. Shot clock is dark. I don't believe they will do anything except run this one out. Well, the Warriors coming off at a crushing, if there can be such a thing as a crushing win, it was last night in this building against Miami. A crushing win because Jimmy Butler tore his right ACL and is out for the rest of the season and part of next year. And the Warriors emotionally came in on E for this game tonight, and Toronto took advantage. They jumped ahead 41-28 after one, led by 30 at one point. The Warrior bench crew cut the lead down and made it a game at one point, but just not enough. That's too much of a deficit. You have to be letter perfect to end the game.
Well, that was Tim Roy after, for the majority of this game, it was pretty ugly, to be quite honest. Toronto Raptors finish off the Golden State Warriors by a final score of 145-127. The Raptors pour in 21 three-pointers. They rack up 42 assists in this game, and they shoot nearly 60% from the field as a whole. And we're going to be talking about all the different storylines from this one on the Golden State side. Warriors wrap up on 95.7 the game. Evan Giddings with you. 888-957-9570 is the number. And this was one that, quite frankly, was not close from the beginning. If we're talking about the actual basketball game itself, and I think there's a lot of other interesting aspects to it around the game, right? Kerr's comments before, most importantly, I think Mike Dunleavy's comments before this basketball game, as well as the performance of the second unit, and namely two of the guys that have been largely out of the rotation for the majority of the season, and that is Buddy Hield, who has recently emerged and been back into the lineup, and then Jonathan Kuminga, who obviously was the elephant in the room coming into this game after Jimmy Butler tears his ACL. He is called upon, plays pretty well in his 21 minutes, despite it being a lopsided loss for Golden State. The second unit was probably the brightest part of this game for the Warriors. But if we're talking about where this game was won and lost, I present to you the first 2 minutes of the game. The Raptors just came out and absolutely swarmed the Warriors. They hit their first four shots. It was a 10-0 lead, and it was very quickly. I was sitting with my parents who were in the building tonight, and my parents had never been to Chase Center before, and so I'm asking them about how they like it. My mom enjoys the setup. It's an awesome acropolis by the sea and all the rest of it, and I'm talking to her about it, and as we're discussing the actual building itself, the game has started, and she looks up and goes, I think your boys are in trouble. And that's because the Raptors, especially on the third game in 4 nights, the emotional E that I think was aptly described by Tim Roy in that final call you just heard, along with the emotional drainage of, the Butler injury, but also just being a back-to-back and your OGs not having it tonight. This had all the makings of a blowout from the first, really just from the get-go. The Raptors won this wire to wire. And they, the funny part is when you look at the amount of time led, obviously it's 100% to the Toronto Raptors. But I would venture to guess that they led by double digits for probably 95% of this game. It got up to as high as 30. That's when the second unit kind of came in. I thought the Raptors took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. The Warriors bench guys and some players who haven't gotten a ton of opportunities were ones that really took this thing personally, and I appreciate it very much. Here at Dumpling Time, they're dropping off some food for us. It's a great place before and after the game to get popped in some fried rice, some shumai, bao, not Buddy Healed bao, but I'm talking about actual bao, just pork buns, all the rest. It's a great place to stay before and after Warriors games. But tonight, look, I thought the second unit, that third quarter was probably, and I realize the fourth Buddy Hield got hot, but I feel like where the Warriors showed their life to me was in that third quarter. And, they trimmed it from, it was eventually 20 at halftime, got up to as high as 30 in that third quarter. And then the Warriors kind of went to their second unit and just tried to throw bleep at a wall and saw. We're going to hear from Steve Kerr in just a little bit, but the idea of experimentation and combinations, this felt a lot like, I would say, Game 2 of the Western Conference semifinals against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Remember, that was a game where the Warriors won Game 1. Kerr in that first half against Minnesota, in which they got absolutely trounced. They got blown out. I believe he played, it was either 12 or 13 guys in the first half, just figure out if there was use and find against Minnesota, just put a bunch of stuff on tape and figure it out moving forward. Obviously, it didn't work because Game 3 was the close one at home, and then Game 5 sort of ran away from you. But that's, to me, what it felt like. Obviously, the difference in that one was Steph Curry was out, Jimmy Butler was in. Tonight, Jimmy Butler was out, Steph Curry was in. The other feeling that I had watching this basketball game was, as well as the second unit played, and I think the biggest part to me was just the energy that they had, right? The Warriors starting unit, they were lifeless. And I really think that probably the biggest two reasons why they got killed in this game were because their best two supposed players in their starting lineup came out flat and didn't. Draymond Green and Steph Curry. I know shots eventually, but in the middle of that third quarter when it ballooned up to 30, Joe Lacob was like throwing his hands up and he was apoplectic at midcourt because his team was just getting buried. Steph had a bad turnover that turned into a three, and then the Warriors made another sloppy play that turned into a quickly three in the corner. And you can just tell that Curry was absolutely gassed. And I don't know if it was third and four nights. I don't know if it was the back-to-back. I don't know if it was the fact that he wasn't playing very well. But you can just tell the look on his face was that of emotional drainage. And Draymond Green was not very good. It's a guy who didn't play last night. He's battling through this calf injury, or pardon me, this ankle injury that kept him out last night against Miami. And tonight it was just right off from the beginning of the game. Bricked his first three from the corner when he does hit his first three, it doesn't always go well the remainder of the game. But if he misses his first two, you might as well just shut the faucet off. Draymond's not going to be a very impactful game player on the offensive end in that kind of game, and he wasn't tonight. I don't think it was a coincidence that when you get at this box score, the two names that are the worst are Draymond and Steph Curry. Also, Brandon Podziemski, who was inserted into the starting lineup, looked completely overwhelmed by Toronto. The only guy in the starting lineup who I thought played decently was probably, at least at the beginning of the game. I know Post had a couple of nice plays during that late push in the second half. But to me, it was Moses Moody. That was the one guy who looked like he had a little bit of something. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Moses Moody was probably the most athletic player in their starting five. Like I said off the top, this was a perfect storm of a sense for Toronto. And they are a team that brings a lot of youth and athleticism. They're also a team that has not really been playing all that well as of late. And they were kind of due for a game in which they were going to shoot it well. But they were really bad down in L.A., right? They played the Lakers. They had the Clippers at home against those two L.A. teams. They shot it extremely poorly over the weekend against the Lakers. They only scored 93 points. Tonight they hoist and they score 145, which I believe, from what I was looking at earlier, is a season high for them. You know, the Raptors are a team that's going to have the Warriors' number when the Warriors are not at, I would say, 100%, not just in terms of health, but just in terms of energy. Like, the time you don't want to play a team like Toronto is when you're playing 3 out of 4 or back-to-backs. Because while they're not always going to shoot it as well as they did, that was utterly ridiculous. They missed only 13 threes while making 21. That's a game that you could just tell right from the start. The other team is far faster, far quicker, and far more aggressive. And if you don't get your bleep together in the first 5 minutes, you're going to get run out of the gym, which is what the Warriors were tonight. I realized they cut it to 9. Buddy Hield had a couple threes in the fourth quarter. To me, what Toronto did to them down the stretch was sort of what the Warriors did to Miami, in a sense of. I think the Heat cut it to 9 with 9 minutes left last night, and they ended up getting absolutely rolled. You know, it's like, just because a game was within single digits or the Warriors have shaved it from 30 down to 12, it doesn't mean that the game is going in the Warriors' favor. I was a proponent of Steve Kerr's plan, which was to basically just play the guys that got them back in the game. I know it was against Oklahoma City earlier this year at home where Kerr took it was Pat Spencer out of the game, and that had people in a hoopla. But tonight he stuck with those guys, and I thought those were the guys that deserved to close. They were the guys that made it a game because the starters did not come to play. I know that Post got his second wind and got a little bit of more action, but I honestly thought that TJD played better than him tonight, you know, despite his numbers looking perhaps a bit more, you know, aesthetically pleasing, right? He had 12 and 7, hit a couple threes. To me, Trace Jackson-Davis, though he didn't do much. In fact, if you look at the box score, he didn't do just about anything. I appreciate you. Thank you. To me, TJD was in the middle of the Warriors' best stretch of basketball. Now, the other part about that, too, is the best stretch of basketball absolutely included, I mentioned it, the two guys who were out of the rotation as of a week ago, a guy who was out of the rotation as of last night, and that was Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield. I thought that J.K. played exceptional in the second half. The game was largely over at that point, which I think, to me, that was the perfect situation for J.K. to get back and get his legs under him and get some reps, right? You know, to me, it would have been unfair if Kerr had thrown him in. Let's say it's a close game. You know, you're really relying on him to go out there and be a playmaker and a scorer, kind of the way he was in the Minnesota series. But I just felt like if this was a tight game, it wouldn't have necessarily, I don't know if it would have gone well, but it wouldn't have been fair to him. This was the perfect scenario, I think, because he hasn't played in 15 of 16 games. It's been about a month since he's really gotten any run, and he played basically 16 of the 24 minutes in the second half. Now, the first 5 minutes didn't go very well, and I don't think they went well for anybody that was on the floor. I think he threw him out there with at the beginning of the second quarter with Curry and Draymond, you know, played him with some of those starters, and you couldn't distinguish him from anybody. Like, everybody stunk in that second quarter. Now, in the third quarter, he goes to him, and J.K. draws a couple of and ones. He created a second chance opportunity at the end of the third quarter for a Quentin Post layup. He was running. He was giving them energy. He was smiling out there. You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that he missed his first 2 free throws in the first half. The first one barely grazed the rim. Then he goes and he makes his next 4 in the second half. Like, he is a rhythm player. And in the second half, it was very clear that he got his rhythm. Scored 20 points on 10 shots. Got to the line 8 times. This is something the Warriors are not going to be able to do a whole lot without Jimmy Butler. And also had 5 rebounds, again, one of them offensive. You know, I thought that was the Jonathan Kuminga that you would have hoped could be a piece of this team off the bench at the beginning of the season, because you can see how quickly he can score, and that to me is absolutely his strength. But it hasn't worked out that way. He's been called into action without Jimmy Butler, and we don't really have to rehash why. I also think him playing, you see that him playing alongside a capable shooter makes things a lot easier for him because he's very ISO dominant. He pretty much just picked the guy on the other team and tried to take him. In the fourth quarter, I thought the Raptors switched things up a little bit. They went to Scotty Barnes on him as opposed to the Grady Dicks of the world. At times he was matched up on, a Jamison Battle, Jonathan Mugbo, like players who he absolutely can take advantage of. But in the fourth quarter, I thought he was steady. And Buddy Hield, to me, opened everything up for not just JK, but a lot of guys in that second unit. Buddy Hield was on freaking fire. And I'm very glad that he went 7 of 8, 6 of 6 from 3. He was 5 of 5 from the line. Nearly a perfect shooting night for Buddy Hield. Scored 25 points and was a team best plus 10 in this game. I'm pretty happy that the one shot that Buddy missed, which was just a grenade that he got at the top of the key and in the fourth quarter with the shot clock expiring, basically had to throw it up. I'm glad that they kind of gave him the shot, but they originally counted it as a 3, went back, reviewed, had a foot in the line, because that keeps what in my opinion was his best aspect of his game, and that was his shooting from 3. He was perfect in this one. Him and JK combined for 45 points in the 127. They're clearly the brightest spots offensively of this game, and it just begs the question of why these guys have been in and out of the rotation. DeSantos didn't play particularly well in this game, had a couple of mishaps. I think we know why Kerr and I guess the relationship between him and Kuminga has soured. We don't have to get into it, but it's also a perfect opportunity for a lot of Kuminga fans, I think, to say I told you so tonight. He steps in and has 20 points, and this is why he has to play. Is Kuminga going to score 20 every night? No, but he might, and that's why for this team, he's got to play right now. And so I'm glad that, again, this was the I think this was a perfect game for JK to wade into the pool. It didn't have a great first stint, got his sea legs under him, and in the second half played the way that I think all of us believe that JK can play, which is he can be a quick scorer, he can get downhill, he can run the floor, can add some rebounding, and can play fast against a team like Toronto where you need some of that size and athleticism on the floor. It also was a game where there was no pressure. JK could go out there and make every mistake, and I was glad to see in the second half he corrected a lot of them, and he didn't make a ton tonight, in my opinion. Thought he played well. But this was a game where if JK had played poorly, it didn't matter. Toronto was up by 30 midway through the third quarter when JK got back in the game. There was nothing to lose on his end, and so that's why I think moving forward, can he just sort of build on this, right? When the games eventually begin to get close, you get Dallas on Thursday, Minnesota twice, who, by the way, was a team he killed in the Western Conference semifinals, statistically speaking. And then you come back for the Pistons in about a week and a half. So, and that's also, I think, going to be around the trade deadline. A little over 2+ weeks away is when February 5th sits. So, it's kind of interesting to see, and I'm excited to see just how people, kind of embrace this team that, to me, quite honest, it looks a lot like last year. And I got some more thoughts on that in a moment. But I want to sneak a call in before we got to hit the break. On the other side, we will get to more of your calls at 888-957-9570, as well as also listen to Steve Kerr and his postgame press conference. I haven't heard from this guy in a while, and I'm excited to go to him because Chardol is in Fremont. Chardol, first of all, where have you been, my man? I know the Warriors just lost Jimmy Butler, but I've been waiting to hear from you. They've been playing good basketball. What's been going on? How you doing?
Hi, Evan, man. I missed you, man. I love listening to you on the radio after Warriors game. I mean, like, this was a heartbreaking loss for the Warriors. They fall to they fall today by final score 145-127. This was a tough loss for the Dubs. I mean, like, we just couldn't. We had no momentum. We couldn't really do anything. I mean, that's not the way you like to see this team play. I mean, like, they just Nothing was going right. It's just like it's not the way you like to see this team. I mean, like I want to see this team put up a more better fight, and I think they did put up a fight today. But it just didn't go. And what were your thoughts on the performance by the Warriors?
Well, Shardal, I'm not going to lie to you, buddy, and I hope you stick with me for a sec because I want to throw something back to you. It was not pretty. However, oh, he dropped. I got you. Well, next time, call back in. I do enjoy the banter between the two. Oh man, I missed you too, Shardal. All right, so this was not a pretty game. There's no doubt about it. The YouTube chat, by the way, Shardal is chiming in. They're feeling for you. It's an emotional game for a lot of people. However, I do have to let you know we have 37 of them more to go, 37 more games. And the Warriors are not a championship team as currently constructed. Who knows if they will be in the future. What I can tell you is if they play with the energy like they had in the second half, really I would say if the energy from the second unit infects the rest of the lineup, and I think one thing, too, just to finish my thought, they're going to win some games and they're going to play better. But what I would say is we're going to be seeing a lot of different lineups again. And this is kind of my big takeaway from this game. We have seen this game in the past a ton of times, and we did not see it more, in my opinion, than the last two seasons leading up until the Jimmy Butler trade. You saw why Jimmy Butler is so important because of everything. He stabilizes, he slows down the game, he gets to the free throw line, he doesn't turn over the ball. All the things that the Toronto Raptors fed off the most tonight and really used to open up this game to a 30-point lead. This was the Golden State Warriors of 2024, and at some stages of 2023. The Raptors a couple of years ago, when Klay Thompson was still on the team, came in here and blew the Warriors out. It drew boos from the crowd because I remember because I was at that game. This game felt a little bit like that. So I think we got to buckle up and be prepared for more of these nights. And in the meantime, can the second half, second unit energy permeate throughout this team a little more to keep them in these games and maybe give us and the Warriors, I should say, some better moments and some better opportunities. All right, on the other side, we are going to listen to Steve Kerr. Here is his post-game comments about this. I also know a few other guys are going to be talking as well, but we will hear from Steve Kerr on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. The number is 888-957-9570. Live here at Dumpling Time after the Warriors go down to the Toronto Raptors, 145 to 127. If you want to get your calls in, if you want to say I told you so, if you want to have some back and forth, just like my guy Shardal, call in, talk to me. Evan Giddings live here at Dumpling Time from Thrive City. We're back after this on 95.7 The Game.
Looking for lifelong financial guidance? Look no further than Pettinelli Financial Partners, your dedicated financial coaches for every stage of life's journey. Whether you're planning for retirement, starting a family, or buying a home, we're here for you every step of the way. Visit PettinelliFP.com. The financial consultants at Pettinelli Financial Partners are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Stratos Wealth Partners, a registered investment advisor. Stratos and Pettinelli are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Neuropathy is a debilitating condition that is sometimes misdiagnosed. Symptoms can include pain, numbness, and tingling in your hands, legs, and feet. Neuropathy is a progressive condition that only worsens unless you get effective treatment. SF Bay Wellness is a leader in neuropathy reversal and uses FDA-cleared, non-invasive electric cell therapy to restore nerve function with no injections, no drugs, and no surgery. The treatments have a 95% success rate. If distance is a factor, ask about our virtual consultation option. Call SF Bay Wellness at 844-94-NERVE for the $99 neuropathy evaluation and receive a personal treatment plan that is tailored to your needs. Don't wait another day. Call 844-94-NERVE. That's 844-94-NERVE. Why keep suffering with the painful symptoms of neuropathy? You deserve to live a pain-free life. Start getting the treatment you need for your neuropathy symptoms. Call today.
I'm Bob Burke, founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC parts solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business insights into our key markets, appliances, HVAC, and outdoor power equipment, and did so both on time and on budget. AmericanEagle.com has the resources, experience, and talent needed to produce solutions. Our new technology platform, developed by AmericanEagle.com, has produced tremendous results with higher traffic, conversion, engagement, and online revenue. If you have any home repairs you need to take care of, check us out at RepairClinic.com. If you need a world-class website or technology project, then I would highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773-NETWORK. That's AmericanEagle.com, 773-NETWORK.
Cats are masters at using up their 9 lives, like chasing laser pointers into walls or jumping onto high shelves. But the one thing cats never do? Text while driving. So be like a cat and protect your one and only life. Don't text and drive.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Now it's time for the closer of the week. Presented by LiftMaster and RNS Doors. Turn your garage into the envy of the neighborhood. Visit rnsdoors.com.
This week's closer comes from Robert from Fresno. I had a good experience with Kim and Lauren when I scheduled the service. Plus, Marion explained the problem. He got it done in no time. Would recommend RNS Erection Tri-County Incorporated to everyone that has any problems with their roll-up doors.
Recently, my garage door opener was not working. I was in need of a closer. I was put in touch with RNS Doors, and they hooked me up with a brand new garage door opener from LiftMaster. With LiftMaster's MyQ connectivity, my garage door opener can be controlled right from my smartphone. You'll know when a door or gate has been left open and can close it with a tap, no matter where I am. Be one of the first 10 callers and receive 20% off a LiftMaster garage door opener.
Call 1-800-FIX-A-DOOR. That's 800-FIX-A-DOOR. Or visit rsdoors.com. R&S Doors. Look for the red truck.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes, if you're afraid to open your mail because IRS collection letters could be coming, listen carefully. The IRS is cracking down, taking paychecks, freezing bank accounts, revoking passports. That's a fact. But here's what most people don't know. There are official tax relief programs designed to help struggling taxpayers. Programs that could save you thousands if you qualify. No one knows these programs better than the experts at Optima Tax Relief. Optima's award-winning team will fight to protect your paycheck, your passport, and your property. Their tax attorneys and licensed tax professionals will work tirelessly to get you the best deal possible with the IRS. Every day, penalties and interest keep piling up, so don't wait. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-568-6533. 800-568-6533. 800-568-6533.
Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks Vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks Vapors when you need more comfort for yourself. Use as directed.
Scotty Barnes with 22. Got 11 assists and 7 rebounds. Buddy from the hash mark. It's a heat check 3 for Buddy Hield. Now it's 125-116. Buddy Hield all of a sudden has 22 points on 7 shots. 135-119. Buddy Hield takes a 3. He's been red hot in this second half. Nails another one. He is 6 for 6 from distance. Spencer the far side. Screened by Kuminga. Spencer top of the key. Shoveled it over to Trace Jackson-Davis. Gets the handoff back. Spencer with 7 on the clock to Buddy Hield. Left unguarded. The 3 ball. That's cold, hard cash for Buddy Hield. And it's 123-113. One step closer are the Warriors with 5:18 to go.
Now back to Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Tim Roy on the call for the Warriors. Honestly, sort of a first half drubbing they took at the hands of the Toronto Raptors. 145, they score a season high by Toronto to the Warriors 127. Second half surge from the second unit falls short. They cut it to single digits. One of those 6 Buddy Hield threes trimmed it to 9 with about 5 minutes left. And then, unfortunately, back-to-back triples by Toronto pushed it up to 15 again, and the game was kind of over at that point. But Buddy scores 25, 7 of 8 shooting, perfect from 3. Jonathan Kuminga, in his return from essentially a month-long absence, scores 20 points in 21 minutes, does it largely in the second half, 7 of 10 from the floor, got to the free throw line 8 times, made 5 of them, a couple of and-ones, and also tacked on 5 rebounds. So, that's going to be something that Steve Kerr is going to have to be open to. I think he finally is, basically just by necessity, and feels a lot like the situation Kuminga was in last year. You got to give him some credit for staying ready in the moment. And I think it confirms a couple things for me. Number one, Kuminga's not a problem. I never thought he was. I never understood why people did. I understand why there might be basketball conflicts or kind of different trains of thought when it comes to Kuminga as a basketball player and his place with the Golden State Warriors, specifically when Jimmy Butler was healthy with this team. But in regards to the whole problem child nonsense, that never stood in my opinion. He stayed ready, came into the game, and played hard. Played pretty well. Again, this was a game that was in garbage time. You're going to have to see it consistently moving forward. But to me, there's no reason with a performance like that he can't continue to get minutes. And hopefully the Warriors will be able to win some games. I said it before the break, and I feel even stronger now thinking about it during the commercials. It very much is the Golden State Warriors of last season, yet before the Jimmy Butler trade. When they were a game below 500, Kuminga had some nice performances. Steph had a couple of games where he willed the Warriors. Draymond turned back the clock a couple games. But the reality is we know that this isn't a championship roster. In fact, we don't know if it's a play-in team. The Warriors are going to have to prove that they can put together some wins with what little cushion that they've built, because they were 6 games above 500. They obviously lost here tonight. But if this team does not want to be where it was before the Jimmy Butler trade, which, oh, by the way, this was the stat that was, the most damning to me last year than anything else. Before Jimmy Butler got here, they occupied the 12 seed for more calendar days of the season than occupying any place of the top 8. And they started the year 12-4. So just think about that. They were a 12 seed longer than they were a top 8 seed last season before they got Jimmy Butler. And that, to me, is the fault of the roster construction. It's the fault of some of the players. But it's also because they were getting set to make a trade, which they did, that eventually changed the course of their year. That trade is no longer coming. And the second part of today's story to me is, in addition to the game and the blowout loss that they were handed, was Mike Dunleavy's comments before the game and Jonathan Kuminga's agent's comments after the game. So Mike Dunleavy was asked about a myriad of things. One thing we did learn was that Jimmy Butler is, shocker, I talked about this before, how I just didn't see it. They're not going to trade Jimmy Butler. From the sound clip that I heard listening to Dunleavy in the media room, it doesn't sound like they ever even had considered it. Like, trading Jimmy just has not been brought up because it's something that's going to be very, very difficult to do. Now, as far as returning next season, he also believes that Jimmy is a player that will be back at some point next year, and they'll just look at it like a Brandon Ayuk situation if Brandon Ayuk actually had an intention of playing for the team that gave him a big contract. I'm sorry, that was a little bit of a low blow, but it is what it is. Now, the quote that sort of ran wild and that did eventually spur a comment from Kuminga's agent after the game. This is from Mike Dunleavy on the Kuminga trade demand. And remember, he demanded a trade not too long ago, and now he's playing for the Warriors. Quote, "I'm aware of that. In terms of demands, when you make a demand, there needs to be a demand." And he's essentially saying that you can't demand a trade if nobody wants you. That's me reading the tea leaves. And he's right to an extent. But part of it is the other teams out there have no reason to demand Jonathan Kuminga because the Warriors do not demand him and have not demanded him to play for the last month. So there is no demand because there's no price, which brings us to the other part of the economic turn, a.k.a. Aaron Turner. He tweeted this an hour ago. This was right after the game in which his client, Jonathan Kuminga, scored 20 points in 21 minutes, albeit in an absolute blowout loss. Demand is sensitive to price, a.k.a. playing time. So if a seller sees a demand is low, lower the price point, let him play, and demand will go up. That's fair, but the demand will go where? And this is why if I'm... God, this guy has just got to stay out of it. Like, Aaron Turner is doing the best he can, and you can't call him a bad agent because he did get his client, which didn't prove a whole lot beyond a playoff series last season once Jimmy Butler got here. He got his client $45 million. So you can't call him a bad agent. But the means by which he is going about getting his player what he wants, to me, is maybe it's the, I don't know, like the new media version of agency. I'm not so sure. It just seems a little sophomoric. It seems a little immature. He also posted a picture of basically the Google description of demand and price relationship. Hashtag IU economics major, hashtag national champs. Anytime you're using more than one hashtag, anytime you're using any hashtag, you can just miss me with that. I thought we left that on Instagram back in 2018. Now, the thing about that is he's right that if you play someone more than nothing, demand will go up for them. But the reality is the highest Jonathan Kuminga's stock was, from what I've gathered, over the last 365 days, was after he averaged 24 points on 3% shooting, 40-plus from three, during the 4-game sweep that he was a part of after Steph went down to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the playoffs. Oh, excuse me. Oh boy. Need a little dumpling time green tea here. That price point that was set by the demand in his description of playing his player, that would have netted you Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards, and a couple second-round picks. Or would have netted you a protected first-round pick from Sacramento and Malik Monk, and you would have had to also ship out either Buddy Hield or Moses Moody. That, to me, is not really that big of a demand. Two teams, one of which who now has rescinded their offer, being the Suns, the other of which has pulled their offer back to the point that they're no longer willing to put a protected first on the table, being the Kings. There isn't a market for this guy right now that's worth giving him up. And I think that's why people are beginning to say, all right, well, let's just keep Kuminga, or Kuminga's not going anywhere before this trade deadline because he's worth more to the Warriors than he is as a trade chip. And that I completely agree with. The idea of Kuminga being worth anything right now is just simply not on the table, in my opinion. And that's why the Warriors are going to have to lay in the bed they made. It's partially their fault. It's partially his fault. It's everybody's fault for the spot we're at. And he can only go out there and play, try and help the Warriors win some games. Maybe they're the team that comes calling, and maybe the Warriors deem it good enough to get off of him. But in the meantime, this is a team that's probably a 500 or below squad, in my opinion. And I think the first result after Jimmy Butler got hurt, went down, is sort of proof of that. Toronto's not a bad team. Don't get me wrong. They're a top 4 team in the East. But they had the same record as the Warriors coming into this game. They played them once before in Toronto. The Warriors should have won that game. They did not close it. This is not a world beater. And you got absolutely blown out of the gate. Again, they did not lead in this game, the Warriors tonight. They were down by 30. Your starters, whether Kuminga should have been in the starting lineup or not, whether Buddy Hield should have been in the starting lineup or not, the Warriors were going to get waxed in this basketball game. Not one player was going to change that. And to me, there was a big gap you saw tonight between them and Toronto, and that's the reality the Golden State Warriors are facing. So Again, 888-957-9570 is the number. If you want to get in on the conversation, we got 15 minutes left. And some people are giving me crap for choking on. I wasn't choking on food, okay? I just needed a little green tea. A little green tea from dumpling time. You kind of need that. All right, Cam is informing we also have Draymond in its entirety. Before we go to Draymond, let's hear from Steve Kerr. Was a little bit short after the game, understandably so, after his team got pummeled by Toronto by a final score of 145-127. Here's Steve Kerr.
You're down 14 going into the fourth, and you stick with the guys who got you there. It was just a matter of just going to let them decide this game because they got you back into it.
For sure. And, third game in 4 nights, so for Dre and Steph especially, I wasn't going to, chase this game and add up the minutes for them. And with that second unit playing so well, it absolutely made sense just to stay with them.
What did you see from Jonathan tonight, particularly in the second half?
Yeah, he came in and had great energy, attacked the rim, made some shots. I thought JK was really good, and it's a great sign. With Jimmy out, obviously there's a hole in at that spot on our roster. So JK is going to factor in here again, and really pleased with the way he stayed ready and stayed prepared, and got his opportunity and played really well.
Steve, did you know you were going to play Jonathan? Maybe not that much, but you were going to play him tonight.
Yeah.
Did you know he was going to be prepared to play like this tonight?
It's been a month or so since he's played, and we haven't had any practices, so it's hard to have any idea how someone's going to play in that set of circumstances. But he was really good.
You had a extended conversation with him right after he hits the 3 and his night's over. Is there any particular message at that point?
Well, I was really asking him about, conditioning and whether he wanted to play the last couple of minutes, and it just felt like the right time to take him out. 21 minutes is a lot when you haven't played in a while, and he had a good night, and it just felt like, and I told him I was going to bring in our two-way guys, and I gave him the option, if he wanted to stay or not for additional conditioning, and he told me he was fine coming out.
Buddy hit a bunch of shots tonight. You guys are going to be searching for, it sounds like, you said pregame, potentially experimenting, and he's a guy who over the course of his career could get really hot for long stretches. How important is it to see what he did off the bench?
Buddy, the last 4 games has just been lighting it up, and just one of the most professional players I've ever coached. Just the energy, the spirit, whether he's playing or not, what he brings to the gym every day is just amazing. And I think he's being rewarded for that approach and that attitude and the work that he keeps putting in. He's the first guy here, on game days, getting in his work in the training room, the weight room, and kept himself in great shape. So it's really, really fun to see Buddy performing after being out of the loop for a while.
Steve, 6-2 on the homestand. Obviously, you lost Jimmy, but how do you sort of assess where this team is at right now moving forward?
Great homestand. Toronto was amazing tonight. 21 for 34 from 3. They couldn't miss. They had a great plan. They came in and took it to us early, and we were obviously trying to swim upstream the entire game. So it happens. We've been the team making all the threes the last few games, and we were probably due for one like this where our opponent made them all. But we move on, and great homestand, but now we got to go out on the road and win some games.
What went into your decision to start Brandon, and is this how your starting lineup will look going forward?
Playmaking, knowing how Toronto was going to guard Steph, basically almost like a box and one, hounding them everywhere. So I wanted another playmaker, guy who could handle the ball and distribute. And Brandon's been playing extremely well lately, and it was an easy decision.
Hey, Steve.
Steve, going back to Jonathan Kuminga, did you see anything from him? You talked about just experimenting with lineups. Did you see anything from him that might warrant a possible starting position in the future?
Everything's a possibility right now. I think, when you have an injury to not only one of your best players, but one of the best players in the league, it just changes everything. The puzzle completely changes. And so we will definitely experiment with some different lineups and combinations. And, one guy affects the other four. And so it will be under consideration for sure.
Were there combinations you kind of liked tonight, even though, the game?
Second unit was amazing. Coming in and putting pressure on Toronto, getting us back in the game, giving us a chance. But every game's different. You have to get a feel, for things over a longer stretch. And we'll be taking a look at this game, obviously, but we'll experiment in these next several games and try to find the right combinations.
That was Steve Kerr after the Warriors blowout defeat to the Toronto Raptors. Yeah, I mean, he's right. Really, the only thing that kind of take away from this game as far as rotations or the experimentation is concerned is the second unit. And really, the two guys who played well together, Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga. It's funny. It's like, okay, I know a lot of people are going to see this game and say, all right, so here's a couple starters. Podziemski stunk. Let's see, Post didn't play well off the rip. I actually thought Moses played fine tonight. He was probably the one starter to me that brought at least a level of energy that was competitive out of the gates. I'm not talking about the entire time tonight. I just mean in the first 6 minutes, which is where this game was largely decided. That's all well and good, but I'm going to be honest, if Kuminga plays well with Buddy Hield and vice versa, why would I unpair them? Like, seriously, I might play them more. You might go from 21 to 25 minutes, but now those guys got to play together because clearly they've found something. You can't say that Buddy Hield didn't play well. He's been shooting the hell out of the ball the last 4 games. Went 6 of 6 from downtown. And that sort of spacing absolutely opened some things up for JK tonight. So, there's going to be ups and downs. What I would caution people for, before we get to Draymond Green here, what I would caution people for is there's going to be a lot more of these games than I think people are assuming. Maybe not wire-to-wire blowouts, but there's going to be games where this team, just like last season, on certain nights, looks completely overmatched. And I think it's going to be games where specifically Steph is hounded like he was boxing one tonight by Rajakovic, the head coach for Toronto, was already tired because it was the back-to-back 3rd and 4 nights, and Draymond Green didn't play very well at all. When those two guys do not play at a good level, it's going to be really difficult for the Warriors to win games, and they might find themselves down 30 like they did at a certain point to the Raptors tonight. All right, speaking of one of those guys, didn't mean to rip him, just kind of the reality of this game, which was not very favorable for Golden State. Draymond Green was asked about a bunch of things after this one. Here's Draymond after the loss.
Just what was your initial reaction or your feelings now when you heard and you know that Jimmy's going to be out for the season?
I think initially you feel for him. You know the amount of work that he puts in to be who he is, and this is what we do. This is your rhythm, your flow, your reality, and so that's altered. So first you feel for him, and then you just try to process it. It's emotionally draining. But you just try to do your best at processing it and moving forward.
Draymond, Moses was in here a minute ago and said it might be one thing if Jonathan were acting a certain way and then came and played, today like this, but he's been handling himself so well that this could be a smooth transition for him back into the rotation. What are your thoughts on just how much you appreciate the game he had tonight and maybe how he's handled himself and stayed ready?
I think we've all been very vocal about how he's handled himself. He's been incredible. And that is proven by the game he had. If you've been a a nuisance, if you will, that game doesn't happen for you. You know, but when you stay prepared, wait on your opportunity the way he has, he's been in here working every single day, then you allow yourself the opportunity to go out and have that game because you prepared for it. You know, and he's prepared for whatever came next. And it showed tonight, and it'll continue to show because he'll continue to prepare, and he is who he is as a person. So what he's been doing ain't going to change because that would be changing the core of who he is, and that's not changing.
When Jimmy got here last year, it jolted y'all to life. I mean, I can remember you at the All-Star break talking about how, you know, you thought you were going to win a championship. He brought that level of confidence and expectations. This is kind of the inverse of that. I'm just curious how, big picture, you look at the ramifications of this injury as it relates to what you guys can do and just your feelings about the ceiling.
Well, I think number one, first order of business is, you know, just trying to figure it out, right? Like, there's no one answer. You know, the one answer isn't anyone here, or that's not going to happen. You know, Jimmy is who Jimmy is for a reason. So to think that, A, is one person going to fix it, or B, we're going to fix it in one day, it's not realistic. That would be kind of lessening the value of what Jimmy brings, and we know what that value is. So, you know, there's that. And outside of that, I don't know. Like, we got to go through it. And we'll go through it, and we'll figure it out. It's the nature of the game we play. Injuries happen, and that's why you got 15 guys on the roster. Somebody else or collectively got to step up. But I believe we can figure it out. What that means for us long term, I don't know. If I had all the answers right now, I would gladly give them to you, but I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a great place to sort of leave this and this show. And Draymond doesn't know. Like, I see someone in our YouTube chat, shout out Riptide, saying, what is Dre saying? He doesn't know. Nobody knows right now inside of that building what is going to happen the rest of the way, because everything that they built into their expectation for this season was under the assumption that Jimmy Butler was going to be a part of it. I think, honestly, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Steve Kerr, all those guys are still in shock of what happened last night. And that's why I did think that this game would be good for them to play, just to try and shake some of that emotional angst off. But it's just going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time for this team to figure this thing out. And in the meantime, you're going to have to be patient with them. The one thing I don't want to sit up here and do is bash them every single night if they're not playing well, because the whole point is, and I think what we have to do is following their lead, and we'll eventually begin to hear it. Maybe you did a little bit at the end of Draymond, where he was kind of, talking through his emotions about this game. We have to reset our expectations. We just do. This is no longer not just a championship caliber team, but this might not be a play-in team. Again, I'll reiterate what hit me in the face watching basically that level of basketball last year. They were a game below 500, and they were the 12 seed when they got Jimmy Butler. They weren't as good as they had been. They'd been around 500 prior to this stretch of 12 of 16, now 12 of 17 that they've played. But that was with Jimmy Butler. So this team clearly has a level that I'm just not sure that they can get to. And that's why I feel like when we watch this team, we're going to have to be expecting different than, all right, each and every night they're going to be able to hang with the big boys in the East, the big boys in the West, and they got a couple of them coming up. Dallas is not going to be an easy game on the road on Thursday. You got Minnesota twice over the weekend, and then after I think it's in Utah on the way back you get Detroit at home, right now the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. Like, the Warriors are going to play some tough games. We're going to learn a little more about this team, but we have to recalibrate our expectations to what the Warriors looked more like last year before Jimmy Butler than what we're hoping that they can somehow extract and become. Steph's a year older, Draymond's a year older, and a lot of the young guys have not grown up yet. You know, to me, if there's one thing to sort of hope for, it would be some of those younger players taking a leap. And right now, I'm just not sure that's wise to expect. So we got to keep watching this team. We got to stay in it with them. And I think just like they are still in shock about what happened last night with Jimmy Butler tearing his ACL, we need to be kind of taking their lead from that standpoint. So that'll do it for us here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. Big thank you to everybody who called in, our YouTube chat, the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line. Big thank you, as always, to our guy, Killer Cam Williams, back in our Laughing Monk studios. Stephen Risotto chopping things up and making everything sound good for you. Big thank you to everybody who listened. My name is Evan Giddings, signing off live from Dumpling Time here at Thrive City. Pop on by before and after. We're around. Come say what's up. I love to meet people actually in person, not just through our chats. I love chatting with you, but meet me here in person. I don't know. We'll throw back a cold one. We'll have a good time. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. Tomorrow, 6 to 10, Joe and Joe, the Morning Roast, Steiny and Goot, 10 to 2, and Wilder and Dibs from 2 to 6. A whole lot coming your way ahead tomorrow on your home for Golden State Warriors basketball, 95.7 The Game. We'll talk to you next time.
Walking into the building for the first time after the shooting, it was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation.